Welcome to the Scarlet Project. This is a show about the slimy underbelly of American colleges and universities, the predators that thrive there, and the administrations that tolerate them. I'm your host, Tom, and I'm joined by my good friend and co-host, Ryan.
Thanks for tuning in, guys. Welcome back to another episode of terrible people doing terrible things and getting away with it.
Maybe that should have been the title for the podcast.
Doesn't flow as well.
Yeah, sure. We're stuck with this anyway. Today, we will be discussing a case out of the University of California, Berkeley. And this one is quite bizarre. It involves a information systems analyst working for UC Berkeley who used his status as an elder in a prayer group to manipulate, control, and make unwelcome sexual contact with another UCB employee. He apparently told people in the group that he was a prophet and convinced the survivor in this case that he was her, quote, spiritual father, and that she needed to obey him or she would be betraying God. Let's get into the show. This episode's subject is the prophet himself, Peter Collins. Like I said in the intro, he worked at UCB as an information system analyst from 2013 to 2019 until, spoiler alert, he was fired for the conduct we are about to describe. Prior to working at UCB, he worked at San Francisco State University in a similar capacity and is a military veteran.
What?
LOL. I know, isn't that crazy? Now when it comes
Shocking.
now when it comes to this prayer group he was an elder in, I'm not really sure if it was something directly affiliated with UCB or if it was just like a lot of UCB employees happened to be a part of it, because the name of the group was redacted in this report for some reason. But it is worth noting that Collins was like the second in command or whatever it's called in a church or prayer group, whatever. And the lead pastor, whose name was redacted, also worked at UCB and was Collins' supervisor in the IT department. After UCB, he went on to work at Toro. Is that how you say that?
Think so.
Toro University in California as a technical lead, whatever the fuck that is, for about 5 months. And after that, his LinkedIn goes dark. So if you know where he's at, hit us up. Ryan, do you want to jump to the details of the case?
Not really, but yeah, let's do it. I guess I do really, because this whole case is just like, you read the file, and we were talking about it before you started recording, but like, just the farther you scroll, the more your jaw starts dropping. You're just like, what the fuck is going on here? Um,
It's really
yeah,
bizarre.
yeah. But let's start it off just by looking at the dates that we have here on the report. Um, so if I can pull it up here, this was initially filed on March 23rd, 2018. And if I may, well, first of all, I'll just let you in on a secret. The report was produced on September 13th, 2019, which you might say is a long time after. And that's because it was. So if I can just read directly from this, I'll just take a sentence from each time it's been uh, an extension. June 19th, 2018, requested and was granted a 30 business day extension of the investigation because they had just received a list of witnesses. Fair enough. I suppose, it was a month after they got the list of witnesses, but again, we'll give it to them. And then August 18th, 2018, they again requested and were granted a 30 business day extension. That's because they had received documents from one of the witnesses. And then you might say, well, certainly you're pretty much ready to go after that. No, on September 18th, 2018, someone took over the case for who was working on it before. And so they requested it and were granted a 60 business day extension of the investigation because obviously they weren't as familiar with the case. 60 days seems a bit much when you have all the evidence and witness statements, but fair enough. But wait, December 7th, 2018, 30-day business day extension of the investigation. Not even going to go into the reasons anymore. January 30th, another 30 business day. March 19th, another 30 business day. May 2nd, another 30 business day. June 12th, another 30 business day. And you guessed it, July 25th, 2019, a 30 business day extension. So this says on this last one, since the last extension, the parties had completed a second review of the evidence. Whoever was in charge of the case determined that no other reviews of the evidence would be necessary. The sufficient basis of the request is because my caseload has impeded my ability to meet the time frame. So they claim that it's such a big caseload and like they can't get it done in time, despite the fact that they've literally had, I mean, just the person who took over the case has had well over a year to get it done.
Yeah, not
Just
a good sign for your university when you have to delay a case for months on end because the investigator's caseload is too big.
right. Like
Might be a
some of
little bit of problem.
these earlier ones you see, like, yeah, you get new witnesses in the case. I guess I could see why, like, if 30 business days is the minimum extension, I suppose, then sure. But like really? You had too much on your plate? Like, this is your job. This is what you're getting paid for. Whatever. That's just the beginning of things, really. Uh, and so I want to jump into, where this relationship begins and how it cultivates, really. Okay, so as Tom mentioned before, Peter Collins is this leader, I say in air quotes, teacher, whatever you want to call it, in a prayer group, and is a self-described prophet. And you'll hear a lot through this episode. A lot of this language sounds like it's out of a cult. It basically is. Um, and so the complainant in the case is in this prayer group with Collins that meets in various different ways. It starts off that they're meeting, through a conference call, which is strange to me. I can't really imagine what that entails. But then they also do meet up on campus, even though it's technically, I don't think, a campus group. Um, but they, meet up during lunchtime where they discuss their faith and how much they love whatever God they're praying to. God help them. Um, but it gets weird from there, and it only gets weirder. Um, Basically, Collins approaches the complainant one day and just tells her that he is her spiritual father. Um, if I can say that again, he said that he is her spiritual father. Because of this, she had to listen to him. Um, and so from there, obviously, because why wouldn't she be? She was his spiritual daughter. Um, and because of this, they needed to meet once a month to spend time together as a father and daughter would.
This is according
Um,
to him. This is what he is saying,
yeah,
according to the
right,
report.
right. And the complaint, I'm obviously we're not going to victim blame here, but the complaint not wanting to feel like she was betraying God, she said she joined this Bible study group to, kind of further her faith or strengthen her faith, I think was the exact wording. Um, she went along with Colin's wishes because, I mean, as we get into, he's quite persuasive in his arguments.
Yeah, I'm not gonna dunk.
Basically,
I'm not gonna dunk on this lady, um, or anybody who is religious. So she's a God-fearing person, quite literally.
mhm.
So she really felt that she needed to do what this guy said because if she didn't, according to him, this is like what he's trying to get her to think is that if she doesn't listen to him, then she's betraying God essentially. And obviously not something a very deeply religious person wants to do.
No, and I mean it is very cultish, he's got this persona where he has to be right and he's telling you exactly what to do. And, you kind of get sucked into this whole thing, this whole ordeal of he is a prophet and maybe he knows what's best. And Basically, yeah, he had said bad things were happening in her life because she was not following God's will.
Hmm.
God's will being basically being his spiritual daughter, again, in his own words, according to the report.
Right. So, yeah, perhaps unsurprisingly, God's will was that she had to spend more time with Collins and have unwanted physical contact with him. You know, God in his mysterious ways and whatnot.
He does work him.
The complaint alleged that Collins wanted to talk to her about her previous relationships, and he said that she needed to interact with him to heal from that, quote, deliverance. Collins also started telling the complainant that she needed to hold his hand, according to the report. When the complainant would resist, Collins would get mad at her and tell her, quote, you don't have faith in God. All right, so reading from the report, on some days, respondent is Collins, would tell complainant that God was pleased with her, while on other days, he would say that God was not happy and asked if complainant was doing something. That's a quote. Complainant said that on one occasion, Collins told her that she should not be talking to a man because the man liked her and was not a good man, and God was not happy with this. So, God is basically looking out for Peter Collins' interests in her, essentially.
I hate
Don't
when I
talk
get
to this
cock
man.
blocked by God.
I know, that's a fucking bummer, man. Now, all of this caused the complainant to try to avoid Collins.
Unfortunately, um, she was mostly unsuccessful in this. And it starts off creepy and somehow it goes from creepy to bizarre to just flat out, I don't even know what's going on anymore. But we'll start it with just the creepy. So, according to the report, Collins asked to meet her by the beach in San Francisco because he had several visions of her at the beach. Of course, the prophet did, he sees many things. They met at these two beaches, often on Fridays, for 2 to 3 hours because that was the complainant's day off. Clearly, no better way to spend your time than with this creepy, creepy man. Um, and what was funny is it wasn't Colin's day off, though. In fact, he was supposed to be working for the university on Fridays and would say he was doing God's work. Just let that sit for a second. During the meetings at the beach, Collins would tell the complainant to hug him for a long time and hold his hand to help her with her healing process. Rightfully so, the complainant was made incredibly uncomfortable by this. And this is just kind of the tip of the iceberg. Um, During their prayer groups that we had mentioned before, Collins would compare her to Jezebel, which is a biblical character, and the spirit of Delilah, another biblical character. But weirdly enough, he would be talking about these characters during their class, and then afterwards it'd be like, hey, I was really talking about you. Um, yeah. And just to take from the report here, the complainant said that she was full of shame and guilt because she didn't know what was happening or couldn't believe that she allowed this to happen. She allegedly asked herself why Collins was doing this to her and why she was allowing it to happen for, at this point, 1.5 years.
I just want to jump in real quick. Yeah, so he was comparing her to Jezebel and Delilah, essentially calling her a whore for wearing red lipstick or nail polish and boots to work. He had a problem with this.
Yeah, she
Some
is.
some Jonah Hill vibes here.
That's honestly very spot on. Yes. So it just keeps getting worse, honestly. Um, The complainant had lunch with the prayer group at a restaurant in Berkeley, not on the campus this time. Um, and Collins suggested that they go somewhere to talk. Collins drove his car while the complainant was in the passenger seat. And again, Collins asks her to hold his hand. This is like the weirdest part. He just frequently is like asking her to hold his hand and like hug her. Like just such creepy stuff. It's just a slimy dude. So they drove to a park and Collins asked to hug the complainant for 10 minutes. And then
Can you
Collins
imagine
was upset.
hold on, sorry, I'm cutting you off.
No,
But
please.
can you imagine a 10-minute hug? What the fuck?
I can't imagine doing much of anything for 10 minutes, let alone standing in space, hugging this total freak.
I don't even hug people I like for 10 minutes or a minute for that matter.
No, it's always just, a double tap on the back. We're good. We're done. Like, I don't want, who wants this?
So
Well,
strange.
after this, Collins got upset that the complainant was not giving enough importance to what he was doing for her and that he needed her help. Collins basically told her that God brought her to him because she resembled a woman that he had previously dated. What the fuck? Um, and then obviously the complaint Collins told her that God was using her to help him heal from his past with those women, and hugging was a part of the healing process. He's basically using like the Care Bear defense where they like have to hold hands to like release their powers or something, but instead it's just him getting over his ex-girlfriend by hugging this woman for 10 minutes in a park somewhere.
Remember like last episode, this like harkens back to um I feel like we've heard multiple times by multiple subjects we've covered that they always say like, "Oh, you look like my ex-girlfriend" or something. It's like it's very gross, and I don't know why that keeps coming up as a theme.
It's a wild, like if I'm just assuming the intention really is like flirtatious with that, who wants to hear that?
Right,
Like,
like a roundabout way of saying, "Hey, I find you attractive. You look like someone I dated before."
right.
That makes sense.
After this, Collins would go on to tell the complainant that he was disappointed in her and she was never going to grow spiritually, I'm assuming. The complainant rightfully again said this made her feel uncomfortable. Well, apart from the hugging, it kept going from there because after this, Collins would also allegedly start kissing her on the cheek while they hugged and smelled her. Um, and just for the record, the complainant said that the hugging, kissing on the cheek, and smelling was non-consensual. And if we can go back to what I was saying before about how he's her spiritual father and she's his spiritual daughter, if you thought that was weird, it gets so much weirder because Collins starts telling the complainant that you have to tell me you love daddy, referring to himself, obviously. Um, and that he was going to call her Pumpkin, just as if she were his daughter.
Uh, this is
It just makes your skin crawl.
fucked, dude. Fucked.
And I mean, the dates are redacted here, but the respondent would then go on to, visiting her office, because he had things to discuss. Um,
Very important things in the middle of the workday.
right. I mean, really, the fact that this guy even kept a job, like, was there no one looking at what he was doing during the day? Like, I can't imagine he accomplished much.
Yeah, I have some thoughts on that, but I'll save them for later.
Right. And in one of these occasions where he visited the office, the complainant recalls Collins telling her that he had a vision while working and saw the complainant as a child. Christ, help me on this next sentence. Complainant said that Collins would also tell her, "I'm your daddy now," after asking her to close the door. Um, Collins would role play with the complainant when she closed the door, acting as if he were a man from her past and telling her she needed to hug him for a long period of time in order for her to forgive the man from her past.
Fuck,
Why
dude.
does this, what the fuck? Like, you know? Um, again, the complainant told the CRO who's overseeing this case that she had told Collins that she was not comfortable hugging him and that Collins would tell her that she did not have faith in God and God was using Collins to help free her. Free her from what? I guess that's open to your interpretation. She reported that she felt nervousness and shame because she was engaging in something that didn't feel right. Um, so beyond all this bizarre hand-holding daddy-daughter fixation thing that he has going on, The complainant also said that Collins would ask her to confess to what she had been through and tell her what his thoughts were. Um, Basically, these confessions took place before their Bible study, and according to the complainant, quote, crossed the line. Uh, Collins would ask if the complainant had been intimate with a boyfriend and asked if she did specific things with her boyfriend, I'm assuming of sexual nature. During this time, Collins would also confess things, including the fact that he had allegedly been addicted to pornography since he was 5 years old. Red flags just up the wazoo here.
Yeah, yeah, that's incredibly disturbing. Is that all right?
Um, well, we do have to get into the black magic stuff.
Black magic.
Oh yeah, you heard me right. You thought we've encountered all the religious items that we could. Well, you would be mistaken. Yeah, so just beyond the incredibly just creepy and just skin crawling things that he has said and done, including the being a obsessed with pornography since 5 years old. Another thing that Collins admitted, confessed, I don't know what the correct verb is here, told either way, the complainant, is that his father was a master in black magic, which made the complainant afraid what would happen if Collins was interviewed about these incidents. The complainant said she felt a lot of shame and fear over interactions with Collins, and she continues to see a therapist about what occurred. And this was in the 2019 file, so I mean, can't speak on that today, but it wouldn't
Right.
surprise me given how batshit insane the stuff that she was just put through by a fellow employee.
Right. And you could just tell, you could just see his obvious attempts to intimidate her and instill fear in her, knowing that she is deeply, deeply religious and, perhaps a little vulnerable, willing to believe maybe some things that are, a little out there. So that's basically it as far as allegations by the complainant go. I usually don't like to go through the denials of the respondents because I don't think they're particularly insightful. But he gets absolutely nuked in response to his denials, and it's just too good. But before I do that, I want to jump ahead a little bit because towards the end of Colin's statement to investigators, it's revealed that Colin's wife found out about his relationship with the complainant at one point and was not happy, as one might expect. So he was married, is married. I don't really know what the
Honey,
status
she's
of.
just my spiritual daughter.
Right. Oh God. I don't know the status of the relationship right now, obviously, but they have at the time of this, well, I mean, hold on, let me fucking restart that fucking sentence. I don't know the relationship status at this point, but the couple did have 3 kids together. So husband and father of 3 and doing all this crazy shit um outside of his wife's purview, but apparently she caught on at one point. And in a footnote, the complainant says that Collins caught his wife talking to the complainant on the phone and witnessed him berate and scream at her to hang up the phone. The complainant said this scared her and confirmed to her that, quote, she should be fearing this man and not to cross him. So I just wanted to make sure we touch on that because it's a recurring theme on the show that fear often plays such a big role in these situations and colors much of the interactions between the victim and the accused. It's a looming specter of if I don't go along with what this person wants, I might be in danger. With that
It's this
said,
power struggle thing that just is comes up again and again. Like you don't, I mean, I'm sure there's examples, but you don't see this happening with, the complainant wouldn't do this to Collins, I would imagine,
right. I mean, yeah, I mean, the power dynamics between men and women are just different because, I mean, generally speaking, you and I don't walk around afraid that some woman is going to come and beat our asses, right? You know.
Right.
With that said, let's get into Collins getting absolutely owned in the investigation. First and foremost, for all the things he denies, he doesn't even deny that he said he was addicted to porn since he was 5 years old. He just said that often ministered to people with addictions and might have said something about his personal life and childhood.
It's like the easiest part to deny.
Right. Just like, no, no, that's so ridiculous. It can't possibly be true. That's ridiculous.
Mhm.
So, but he doesn't even bother doing that. So, not off to a great start. He denied saying he was a prophet, but gets smacked immediately when the complainant provides an email in which he mentions receiving a prophecy. So, I don't know. Receiving a prophecy is kind of the same thing as being a prophet, no?
I would have to think so.
And then he straight up told investigators that he had visions about the complainant's history. That's so Raven ass motherfucker. The complainant mentioned that Collins would call her Pumpkin, but Collins says, no, no, no. My nickname for her was Pumpkin Seeds.
I'm not a monster, see?
How do you not understand that that's worse? Like, Pumpkin is kind of like a normal thing. I mean, in the context of this relationship, it's not normal, but if you were whatever your child or your girlfriend or whatever, you might call them pumpkin, but pumpkin seeds, what the fuck is that?
That's bizarre.
But here are my favorites. So he says that it would make no sense for him to do these things because it would jeopardize his job. This to me is how you could tell he's really flailing because if potential consequences prevented anyone from doing anything, then there would be no crimes ever committed in history. No one would be in prison, and nothing bad in general would ever happen. That he thought this was some kind of checkmate response is fucking hilarious to me. It's so stupid. But the best one is the classic, I'm not even attracted to her.
Yep.
And I feel like this is like this one echoes of Donald Trump because I feel like he used this one in the run up to the 2016 presidential election when he was being accused of all types of misconduct.
Hmm.
It's
I'm
just
only
like,
attracted to my daughter.
oh man, ew, maybe this is like
It does
this.
kind of relate, actually, now that I think about it.
I
Yeah.
know now that you said that, it's like connecting in a way I didn't even think about before. Oh man, that's fucking gross. So he says, nah, no way I would do any of that because the complainant just doesn't do it for me. And then he gets nuked again on the next page of the complaint on the investigation by the first witness who says she overheard a conversation where Collins said that the complainant is hot. So just boom, just fucking annihilated. It's awesome.
This guy's just like stepping on rakes like in a cartoon. Like every other step, he's just hitting himself in the face.
I know it's just so good. Like it's just
Hmm.
so good to see him get thoroughly owned on all of this
Hmm.
shit. Getting back to witness one, that witness also corroborates a lot of what the complainant alleged, saying that the complainant told her how Collins would be critical of her appearance, how he smelled her, and how he would show up at her house for Bible study and stay there until midnight. Again, he has a wife and 3 kids at home, and he's off showing up at some lady's house for quote Bible study and staying there until midnight. It's fucking
This guy
crazy.
cared about nothing except apparently God, who he might have viewed himself as, and his spiritual daughter. Like he's
Yeah,
skipping work, he's doing, all this stuff. Like what is going on? How do you get this deep? Like,
just obsessed with her, clearly.
mhm,
And he's having visions. Don't forget that part, Ryan. He's having
that's
visions.
true. That's true.
Uh,
The man's a prophet.
the man is, you can't deny, you can't take that from the man. He's getting smacked around in this investigation, but you cannot take away that
For
he's a
sure.
prophet. Witness one also said that whenever Collins saw something he didn't like, all of a sudden there would be a lesson about it. Like how when he thought the complainant was dressing too provocatively with her red nail polish and boots, there was a lesson in the Bible study about Delilah and Jezebel. So obviously trying to use his position as pastor to manipulate people and bend them towards his will.
So let's look into one of the witnesses' statements here. Over time, Colin's expectations for a small group of women, um, which is really this Bible study group, which contained the complainant and the witness that this is from. His expectations rose. Um, Witness 2 said that Collins told these women that they needed to have individual Bible studies with him and needed to meet before the Bible study call with him as well. There were times where Collins spoke to both the complainant and Witness 2 together and other times separately. Um, Basically, Collins' expectation was this small group of women always needed to be on the call, even when they were on vacation. And this goes back to what you're saying, Tom, basically, where he just wants to have control. He wants to be in this position of power and hold something over these women's heads, honestly, it seems. Um, Again, Witness 2 goes on to describe one of her one on one Bible studies with Collins. Basically, Collins would tell her about his life, again, that he had been addicted to porn and delivered from it by God. And another one came up, weirdly enough, asks her to call him daddy as well. Uh, I don't really know if, I guess she's his spiritual daughter as well. Maybe it's an adoption sort of program with that.
Hey, the
But
man
yeah,
can have many spiritual daughters, okay?
there's nothing against the law about a little spiritual daughter love, except when it's this. Basically, Collins also joked with her and the complainant, telling them that they could both call him daddy. Um, Witness 2 had told the person overseeing this case that she thought Collins used humor to introduce something awkward and see if they would bite and follow through, which is, again, something we see in a lot of these cases. And we saw in this, where it's like, oh, you look like my ex girlfriend, you this and that, this, that, and the third. It's a classic. Like he plays all the hits really in this one.
Hmm.
Um, and he's asked this a couple on numerous occasions. Um, she claims that she did not call him daddy, and she does not think that the complainant did either. But Witness 2 said she told Collins that she was not going to call him daddy. It's not going to happen. Quote. Good for her. Witness 2 and the complainant, according to Witness 2, talked about Collins after he asked that they call him daddy. And the complainant had told Witness 2 that Collins makes her uncomfortable. She had told Witness 2 that Collins would pop up at her office frequently, and she didn't understand why, really. They also talked about how much Collins seemed to want to have a part in the complainant's life. For examples that he wanted to meet anyone that she wanted to date, and that God did not want her to speak to certain people. It sounds more like he did not want that, but I digress. Witness 2 again told the complainant that Collins' actions were strange and not okay. And they also told the overseers of this case that the complainant had more interactions with Collins because they worked together on campus, or at least more interactions that she knew of. And here's a weird little tidbit that she adds. She didn't see the complainant and Collins interact with each other at church because the complainant didn't go to church a whole bunch. When she did go to church, Collins kept close, uh, which made Witness 2 thinks that he liked the complainant.
And let's just recall that she stopped attending so frequently because of Colin's behavior towards her.
Right. And so this just kind of corroborates with her story about why she's not going there and basically his actions. Yeah, I mean, she went on to say that he would be popping up at her office and call her nearly every day. And he, here we just keep going with this spiritual daughter, spiritual nonsense. Witness 2 also went on to say that Collins told her and the complainant that they were spiritual sisters, and again, he was their spiritual father. Um, Witness 2 at least felt like he was manipulating them mentally by using these type of words, which I
I
don't think is much of a reach.
I love whoever this person is because every time he tries to pull some manipulative bullshit, she immediately clocks him,
Right.
not getting past
Like,
her.
fuck that, dude. I'm not calling you daddy, you creepy, creepy man. Um, it keeps going on with this, basically more stuff that just Collins is trying to do, calling them very beautiful women. But also Witness 2 corroborates again what the complainant had mentioned about Collins and her hugging, but she did not recall him smelling the complainant's hair, kissing her on the cheek, which really doesn't mean much.
But witness two also did corroborate that um, Collins did, in fact, think the complainant was attractive. Um, he, the witness two said that Collins once commented on how beautiful he thought the complainant was.
And another interesting part in this, and it's kind of tacked down to the end, is that witness two mentions that quite a few people separated from the church when they realized just how harmful and toxic this whole thing was. She fell out of touch with the complainant herself after leaving the group, but she would go on to call her and see how she was doing. So now going on to witness three, who was interviewed by phone. The complainant had I picked out witness three in particular as a witness with relevant knowledge, because the complainant is witness three's aunt. Um, this witness was also involved in the ministry and that the complainant and Collins were a part of for 2 years. Witness three goes on to corroborate a lot of the things that the complainant mentioned, saying that the church activities took place online and over the phone, which again, I think is really bizarre. But witness three also said she would visit the physical church pretty frequently. As we just heard witness two say, the complainant started going lesser and lesser. And we're going to get into numbers here a little bit, so just bear with me for a minute. Witness three said that witness four was the lead pastor and respondent was the associate pastor, but Collins, the respondent, seemed to have the final say, quote, over the church. So another really weird quote just pulled from what witness three had told the had said basically. Witness three had said that Collins asked her what her thoughts would be if Collins and the complainant, quote, got together. Witness three said that Collins would call her at 4 a.m. to ask about the complainant multiple times. She found this hounding weird and would tell Collins that she had work in the morning and needed to go to bed. Rightfully so. Also, again, like what you were going off of, it's 4 o'clock in the morning. Is this guy ever home? Like,
I know.
I,
I was literally just thinking that when you said the thing about him asking her what her thoughts would be if the complainant and him got together. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about, bro? You're married with 3 kids.
yeah, and then this is kind of a weird thing to tell anyone, I guess, but again, not judging the witness, but witness three told Collins about having a dream that she was wearing a tight dress while on a date with the guy. And you couldn't really ask for a weirder response because Collins said, "Oh, you dreamt about me and the complaint. That's about us." Like, how utterly obsessed is this dude? Like, it's literally scary, honestly. Yeah, so then it's just again what we had mentioned before. Witness three goes on to also mention that Collins would basically intervene anytime the complainant was interested in someone, dating wise. To quote from the report, witness three said the Collins would tell the complainant that these men were, quote, the enemy and try to stop anything from happening. Witness three went on to say that the complainant was engaged to someone, and Collins told the complainant that this was not God's plan. I'm wondering if he's familiar with the Drake song. It's neither here nor there, but after this, the complainant broke off the engagement.
It's very eerie how God's will, God's plan, whatever, always seems to mirror his interests.
Yeah, very convenient for him. Not so for the complainant. I mean, just imagine being in her shoes here. Like this guy, for some whatever reason, just has complete, just wants to have complete say over every facet of her life. Again, while he's married with 3 children at home, like it's just baffling to me. Um, because it's not only just things like her engagement, big enough, but he was also
Well, hold
controlling.
on. I don't think that was like a literal engagement. I think
Oh yeah.
it was just like a relationship. They just chose a real weird way to phrase
Oh,
that.
oh, that makes sense. But I mean, looking past just like trying to break up her relationships, Collins was also very controlling about what she wore. I mean, like you said, Tom, he would compare her to Jezebel, a biblical character who, for the sake of this was just a whore basically. Anytime she wore red. So Collins told the complainant that teal is associated with mischievous women as well, and asked why she was wearing that color. And so it does make me wonder, like, what color you're allowed to wear. Like teal and red, both, I guess, ends of the spectrum, but it's neither here nor there. Also, I want to get into role play here.
Oh no, not more of that.
Yeah. Um, because Collins, in August, and the years redacted, had witness three role play with him over the phone. Basically, Collins played the role of, you guessed it, witness three's ex-boyfriend, and had witness three say, "I love you. I've always loved you." Witness
God,
three,
bro.
witness three went on to say that Collins would ask her to role play being the complainant. Um, you be the complainant, Collins said, and witness
I'm sorry, I
witness
don't mean to
three.
laugh. It's just so fucking crazy. You
It's
can't help but laugh.
it's it's stranger than fiction. Literally, like you could not write a weirder character than this guy. Um, Witness three said that Collins would take the "I love you" comments from Witness three as if the complainant were saying those words. Um, Basically, he was just using her as another example of getting at the complainant without actually doing it. I And again, he's doing that thing where like she needs to release or be healed from her past trauma of her ex-boyfriends by role playing with him as her ex-boyfriend. Yeah, I don't I don't know.
But then things take a dark turn, don't they? Well,
Um
I mean, the whole thing is dark, don't get me wrong, but this is just like very disturbing and awful.
yeah, Witness 3, just one of the last statements here from them, said that she and the complainant went to a mall in February. Witness 3 said she noticed that the complainant started shaking and crying. The complainant went on to tell Witness 3, "This is a place that Collins took me to and made me do things." Quote. Complainant witness Complainant told Witness 3 that Collins made her hold his hand and call him dad. Complainant told Witness 3 that Collins said he wanted to be the complainant's spiritual father. And like it's easy to laugh about a lot of these things that come up just because of how, insane they are really. And like I said, stranger than fiction. But I mean, in stuff like this, you can literally see that it's just breaking this woman down, which is his goal.
Did you mention the thing about this is the place he took me to make and made me do things?
Yeah, they don't really dive into what exactly that means.
Yeah, but it
Um,
sounds like some unconsensual something.
yeah, I mean, just going off of what Complainant 2 had already said, I don't want to allege anything that's not in here, but to
Right.
be break down and crying in a mall, it's
Shaking.
hard to imagine it's just because of what he has been doing. You know what I mean?
Hmm. So moving on to witness four. And witness four was basically the only witness who didn't have anything bad to say about Collins, but this was his fellow pastor and supervisor at work. So I'm just going to go ahead and say, in my opinion, he was definitely in on it. Or maybe he
Battery's
was,
protecting him.
yeah, but why would he be protecting him other than, well, I guess we could get into that in a second. um, or maybe he was doing some other shit and Collins had dirt on him. Either way, not many insights in his statement, but here's something to keep in your back pocket for later. Witness 4 did state that he believes Collins had a prophetic, so like a prophet like role in the group, and that he had a prophetic gift. So just hold on to that one for a minute. And we're going to move into Witness 5. Witness 5 was the complainant's supervisor at UCB, and again corroborates a lot of the complainant's allegations, saying that the complainant told him things like Collins calling himself a prophet and trying to pressure her into engaging with him sexually. Interestingly, and kind of proving my witness 4 was in on it theory, witness 5 told investigators that the complainant told him that she reported Collins' inappropriate touching and attempts at intimacy to witness 4, again, the lead pastor and Collins' supervisor. And his response was that Collins was a prophet and it was all for her, quote, sanctification and part of the religious experience. So, I mean, you could kind of put two and two together here. And like you said, Ryan, maybe he was protecting him because he really does think he's a prophet or some such bullshit.
I don't know. Like this guy seems to have like, and again, I'm just judging this off of text in a report, but like the least suave of like anybody ever. I don't get how he's like so compelling to these people that like they actually listen to him.
Right.
Like
Like
to
what
me,
kind
he
of
just sounds like an
charisma,
idiot.
right? Like what kind of charisma could he possibly have had when he's like literally just like, and it's obvious to everyone around him that he's obsessed with this woman. And yeah, I don't know. It's very fucking strange. So, Ryan, you want to jump into the last witness here?
Yeah, so this interest has or this witness has an interesting perspective. He was the director of a redacted department, of course, at UC Berkeley, but why that's important is because he did supervise over the complainant as part of his role. And we'll get into just at the start of it, the fact that he's aware of it and knew that witness four, the priest, ran the group. So witness six is a pastor as well. And at the time of this had been a pastor for 14 years. He knew the complainant because she was a member of the church. So witness six, as a pastor of 14 years, said that he is not on good terms with Collins because of two separate incidents. The first is when he confronted Collins about complainant, and the other was 3 to 4 years ago, which we'll get to that first one in a minute. But the other was 3 to 4 years ago when another woman told witness six that Collins was encroaching on her relationship and texting her and calling her privately. Witness six told the leader of this investigation that after the second incident, Collins told witness six that witness six wasn't his pastor and Collins did not show up again in the church. Witness six said that he confronted Collins in person for both incidents. He also went on to corroborate that he did hear Collins call himself a prophet, and Collins would ask witness six if he heard or felt something to show he was a prophet.
And
Um,
did he have any proof of his?
it's almost like that magician that's like asks you, "Is this your card?" 3 times in a row. Um, as an example, Collins told witness six he could feel that witness six neck was in pain. And possibly my favorite part of this whole report, witness six would say, quote, no, my neck is fine.
I just want to make sure we don't skip over this too quickly, but so witness 6 stated that another woman told witness 6 that respondent was encroaching on her relationship and texting her and calling her privately. So this isn't like a one-time thing with this dude. He had like other people he was obsessed with and trying to manipulate, according
And
to this report.
this is only 3 or 4 years ago,
Right.
also
I mean,
from the time of the report.
right. And who knows, if there are any in between, that
Right.
woman and the complainant in this case.
And so we'll get into again what I touched upon briefly before, just with the history of the complaint from witness six perspective. Um, Witness six didn't really hear a lot of this stuff from the complainant herself. Instead, actually, he said that witness one started telling him about the complainant and Collins a few weeks after the complainant had initially left the church. Again, he's kind of just, confirming a lot of things that we had heard before. Said that he had heard the complainant and Collins were riding in a car, seeing each other more often outside of church. He remembered one instance in particular where Collins told the complainant to leave her husband and serve the Lord with him. Uh, Again, this is just incredibly cultish, like everything out of his mouth. Witness six told the CRO he could not remember who told him these things. I mean, whatever. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't. But he also heard that Collins hugged the complainant for a long time and that Collins told the complainant to call him Daddy. Oh, yeah, that's back again. Witness 6 said that he also heard that Collins told the complainant that she resembled women he had dated, and he could not remember who had told him these things, and could only say that he had heard it from others.
This was like church gossip. Everybody knew about this shit.
Right, this is coming from a pastor.
Right. He's getting all the dirt from all the other, whatever, church patrons, whatever you want to call them, because
Mm.
everyone is just witnessing this weird,
He is
gross behavior.
steeping in holy water.
That's a good one, man. So, let's get into, let's kind of wrap this and talk about the outcome of all of this. That's it, pretty much, as far as allegations and witness statements. And this investigation was so bad for Collins that the investigators basically nail him on all counts and find it. The standard of these types of investigations are more likely than not, because it's not like a court of law, but they found it more likely than not by the preponderance of evidence that Collins did basically everything he was accused of. And after that, UCB hands him his walking papers, and UCB also informs him of his right to appeal. But as far as I can tell by the documents that I was given, he didn't even try because he was just cooked. And
Yeah, I mean, once they call you out on like your fifth lie, I feel like you don't have much hope left.
right, and let's just think about other cases we've covered. Um, I don't think I've ever seen that every single allegation is credited, essentially. I don't think I've ever seen that. So like it was such a thorough investigation, and so many witnesses were there to say, "Oh yeah, he did that. He said that. I saw it. I heard it." He just got completely smashed.
When you got the pastor going against you, even that's a tough look.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it doesn't get more credible than a pastor, I wouldn't think.
No,
But just to wrap up, Ryan, are you religious at all?
no, I'm not.
Me either, but I think that if such a place as heaven or hell existed, there would be a special place in hell for someone who uses God to manipulate a woman into sleeping with him. That concludes this episode of The Scarlet Project. If you'd like to get in touch with us, our DMs are open on our socials. We are at The Scarlet Pod on Twitter and on TikTok, or you can reach us via email at thescarletpod@gmail.com. All right, everyone, stay safe and look out for each other.